the deal, Panther fans? It's your boy, the Professor, a.k.a. Tony Dunn, and this is the C3 Podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, and we're popping bottles, folks. It's going OG style. We're taking it back to the days when it was just two, and tonight there are just two. It's me and my boy, my brother from another mother, that freaking Puerto Rican, Joe Riolano. What is up, my man?
Man, things are good here in South Cackalack. It has been a great couple of days if you're a Panthers fan. It is our favorite night of the week, Tony, and Panther Nations. It's the time Panther fans can let it all hang out, and this week we got a lot to let hang. At C3, we do this for the fans because we are fans.
That's right.
It was just a fantastic Sunday, which led to a great Monday, which is just the start of a great week.
I like that. We got a lot to let hang, and believe me, it's long and beautiful.
That's right.
Folks, this is the C3 Podcast. You can be sure to tweet the show using the hashtag C3. You can check out our work at CarolinaCatChronicles.com. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you can't watch on YouTube the entire show, you can always find all the podcasts on CarolinaCatChronicles.com under the podcast tab. You can also check us on iTunes, Stitcher, and TuneIn Radio, all three of those. While you're there, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, whatever the right lingo is, maybe even write a rating, because right now we've been growing each and every week since we started this, and we're starting to see it pay the fruit. We're starting to see the dividends. People are responding from all across the world, engaging us. We're growing at an exponential rate, and we'd like to thank you for that support. Tonight, Joe, the episode is episode 15.38, Monkey Off the Panthers' Back, with an eye on the Eagles. The Carolina Panthers are coming off a bye, and Ron Rivera and Cam Newton aren't winless for the first time in their careers in Carolina. The Panthers removed the thorn. They got over the hump. They got the monkey off their back by beating the Seattle Seahawks for the first time, well, in what feels like forever. And for the first time in their house, well, ever. We're going to celebrate it, Joe. We're going to break it down. We're going to move on to next week, where it's time to do our part and kill off an endangered species, that the Philadelphia Eagles. We're coming for you next. We hate birds. I hate freaking birds. Cats eat birds. We hate the Eagles. We hate the Seahawks. And we hate the Falcons. Hey, throw the Cardinals in there. If there's another right. bird in there, pretty bird. I'll tape your head back on. Joe, you know we got a lot to talk about. It's a great night. Just coming off of this, what are you thinking? And before we get in, because we're going to get into what's hot, we're going to do this. But first impressions as a Carolina Panther fan, are we overly excited? Are we just – we blew up like it was a Super Bowl at the bar.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was for us. I was with a group of Panther fans. Some I didn't even know were Panther fans. They were in disguise, just wearing regular clothes, not even any team memorabilia. But as soon as Greg Olsen caught the touchdown, people were just running around, screaming, shouting, cheering. It really was like we won the Super Bowl. And I think it really is that the monkey off the back. But let me interject here real quick and give a shout out to our boy Mil Mayock, a.k.a. Aaron Ford. He's not with us tonight. He is out and about. You know, a Rolling Stone gathers no moss. So we just want to give a quick shout out to him. Tony, in my On the Line paragraph or so, I mentioned this game as being a turning point or a crux or a crossroad for us in the season to this point.
It's like a crucible.
It really was. So I really felt like so much of our season was dependent on this one game, and we won. So I really believe sky's the limit with this team. Even though we're not the most talented by far, we're not the most talented, but I think we're the gutsiest, and we do have the I'm going to say the hardest working man in football right now, Cam Newton. He does the most with the least.
Yeah, he's the bestest with the worstest. He's the greatest with the faceless. Cam Newton is fantastic. He is the hardest working. I will mention this, and we're not going to talk about it on What's Hot on C3. I haven't even checked the analytics or anything. I've been so busy and crazy. But we put out a story just really quickly. It wasn't even a story. It was just a blurb that we were able to capture the reaction of the bar. Now, believe me, the video quality is dark. It's not necessarily the view that you're going to appreciate, but you can go to CarolinaCatChronicles.com and check out Panther Fans Explode at Greenville Ale House. And our buddy Jarrell is a super homer, right? He's a super Panther fan. He has PSLs by himself. He drives from Tarboro every week, and he goes and has one seat, one PSL, and he goes to all the home games.
Wow, right? That is a fan right there.
Yeah, badass, dude, right? So he just believed it was going to happen. He was like, I'm going to record the reaction, and he had the phone out. And he knew it was coming. And Greg Goldstein goes, we went nutso, Joe. On top of that, there was a Seahawks fan there who he wasn't a bad dude. He was not a bad dude. He was a nice guy. But he came from the position of a guy that had never felt a loss to the Panthers, right? There was a snarkiness, a condescension, even in his compliments, that was annoying. One of my friend's wives, Mindy, she was like, I can't take this guy. Like, she was like, I just want him to shut up. And he wasn't even saying a lot. It was really just bothering us. And it wasn't him as much as the whole moment, the Seattle Seahawks overall. At one point, when Ricardo Lockett caught that touchdown pass, right? And he goes, you got to admit, you can't hate that. Right? And I looked at him and I said, yes, I can effing hate that.
And I do.
And I do. And F you too, you stupid ass. Like, I mean, it was like we weren't rude. We weren't mean. But inside there was a visceralness to us, Joey, where we were swallowing down this acid that we wanted to spit at him. So at the end, when we celebrated, we did pull the very classy jump all around him and take a selfie move. You can see the blurry picture on CarolinaCatChronicles.com. But we need to jump in and really talk about this historic epic win. And we're going to do that because we know it's what's hot on C3.
Austria. Good day, mate. Let's put another shrimp on the barbie.
No, I'm just getting warmed up. Here's Charlie facing the fire, and there's George hiding in Big Daddy's pocket.
Dylan and Dylan, because I spit hot fire.
Take a flamethrower to this place.
What's hot on C3? I tell you what, is the Carolina Panthers took a flamethrower to CenturyLink Stadium, and I'm just going to go ahead and verify that SuddenLink, my cable provider, was correct. And CenturyLink is slow, and it is old, and the Carolina Panthers are fast. They're like the 100 gig download speed of cable internet, Joe. This was really an important game, Joey. The Panthers, they were hot, or they are hot now. We are 5-0. Hump day comes early, thanks to the Seahawks. Carolina goes into arguably the most hostile playing environment in the NFL. They pull out a fourth quarter comeback, a 27-23 victory. Seahawks once again blow another fourth quarter lead, and Cam Newton orchestrates another fourth quarter comeback. Joey, Cam Newton goes 20 for 36, 269 yards. He has a rushing touchdown. He has one in the air. Jonathan Stewart finally gets going. He actually gave away a Vizio TV this week, maybe even two. Holy cow. He found the end zone not only the first time, but the second time of the season. 20 carries for 78 yards. And then our man, Greg Olsen. He's had 3 big games as late, or I saw a second consecutive game. The Saints, he had 134 yards receiving. He goes to CenturyLink, leads this team, 7 catches, 131 yards, and a touchdown. Would have had 2 touchdowns had it not been for the snowshoes. We're going to talk about defense, Joey, but just given this information about the offense going into CenturyLink, how big of a win is this for Carolina? And I know we've already touched on this, but I feel like we really need to talk about what this does for this team and its future.
I really think it's all psychological. This team had our number every year, or every time we played them for the past couple of years. They just had our number. Russell Wilson was getting all this glory and attention for being the leader of this
from
team.
Jesus. Jesus had helped him.
Right, and all this. Now, he is good, but really, Cam outplayed him this game. And Cam showed to me that he is the better quarterback than Russell Wilson, clearly, I think. Cam had a rough first half. He did, undeniably so, but we were in the game, thanks to our defense. And in the fourth quarter, in the last 8 minutes, Cam was on fire. His quarterback rating, I think, in the last 8 minutes was like 133 or something like that.
134, yeah, it was up there. It was amazing. Joey, let's talk about that first half. You said he had a rough first half. Outside the interception, how really bad was it?
Well, I think
I know that everybody said it's been terrible, but I don't know if I felt that way outside the first 2 series.
Well, like I said, they kept us in it. I think Jonathan Stewart getting on track was a huge bonus. And, I say getting on track. He had 20 carries. He only ran for, I think, 78 yards.
Right.
Which is great because I think we had to run the ball to win this game. We couldn't have put it up 50 times and expect to win the game. So him getting 78 yards, Cam rushing for whatever he rushed for, good play calling, I felt like, for the most part. And Cam was he was a victim of drops as usual. And I think he was like 4 for 12 in the first half or something like that. So it wasn't great numbers. But we were kept in the game, like I said, thanks to the running game by Stewart and Cam using his legs at the right time.
Let me ask you this. T-Money chimes in and says, Cam struggled passing the ball in the first half, yes, but Shula option offense and trick plays made up for it. Mixed perceptions about Shula here, right? Good and bad game. It seemed like there was one call in that game that really just drove me nuts, and it's a shuffle pass to Greg Olsen on third down. Like, so you pick the slowest guy that's never broke a tackle in his life, and you throw him a shovel pass? I didn't get it.
Right. That's right.
But you did see him, what Shula did do in this game, and I think this is what T-Money is really honing in on, is he used Cam to keep people honest, right? And he's done that all season.
Right.
He has used Cam very effectively this season. He hasn't overrun him. And, Cam has had a lot more carries than, if you look at the numbers, he's had a lot of runs. I don't know if they're all by design or by desperation at times, but he's run the ball, but it seemed to be effective use of Cam. I think the trick plays, more than it being tricky and actually confusing, was finding a way to get Philly Brown involved in the game where he didn't have to catch the ball right on the first touch. Almost like Philly Brown needs like what Cam Newton needs. Cam Newton almost needs to get a little grass on his shirt before he loosens up. Philly Brown,
Yeah.
he made some big catches on the sideline. He had the reverse. He ran the ball a couple of times. Did you find a certain creativity or freshness to Shula's game and throughout this, or were you yelling about the shovel pass the whole time?
No,
Is it shovel or shuffle?
It's a shovel pass.
Shovel, okay.
Like a shovel, yeah.
Good, I was right. Why do I ever question myself?
I think, well, you are the professor after all. The shovel pass did bother me when I saw it, because I thought, what a terrible time for the play. The play itself wasn't bad. It was just the timing of it was really terrible. I did like what I saw out of Philly Brown. The reverse was a great call, I thought, and on the sideline catch to convert that to get the first down.
Big.
That was an all-hands catch, too. It was all
very
hands.
big catch.
Yes, so that really pleased me when I saw that. There was some creativity to the offense. Overall, I think it was a good game plan that it came with, and I like
stuck to it.
Yes,
stuck to it. I think another thing, and I think that we have seen this a little bit more, is there's been a little aggressiveness to Shula, just a little bit more than normal. Not that he's throwing on first down, not that he's doing necessarily like very creative things, but he's going downfield a little bit more than when it's just 3rd and 10.
Right.
And I feel like that may be, you capitalizing on this is that you got guys that really can't catch much, but they're fast. And you got Cam Newton that can throw as far as you can see. So I really have liked that about it. Joey, on top of this, what do you think? And this is where, and going back to my original question, what does this mean for this team going forward? Is I don't think that we can say enough about how important this win is. And what I mean by that, and I know people that are listening that are not Panther fans, they're going to go crazy. They're going to say stuff like Seattle is trending down. They have the worst offensive line in the league. They're really not that good. The defense is not played to the level they are. There was no Bobby Wagner, and you guys are celebrating like you won the Super Bowl. Where I think this is important for this team is we have seen Dave Gettleman sign Cam Newton to extension.
Mm-hmm.
We have seen him sign Luke Kuechly to extension. And we have seen Dave Gettleman put faith in Ron Rivera. What I think this does is gives those 3 people the confidence, like you said, and the belief that those 3 people alone can be the bedrock of this team going forward. And I don't mean this season, Joe. I mean the following season, the season after that. I see a confidence and a killer edge being developed in every single one of those. I think for Ron Rivera, last year was the test for him. If it didn't break him then, he can't be broken.
Right.
Cam Newton, after all of this, he has a rough start. Again, manufactures a good comeback. And then you got Luke Kuechly, who comes off the concussion, 14 tackles, fantastic. I think that this was a statement game, not to the league, not to analysts, but to the Carolina Panthers locker room that you got the right guys.
Right, I agree 100%. I think as far as their confidence goes, this is a tremendous boost to their confidence. They have to know that, hey, even though we're missing Kelvin Benjamin, we're still a good enough team that we can beat anybody.
With just Cam.
Right, because of Cam and how good our offensive line is doing, because they played excellent in this game. And because of our defense is going to keep us in so many games, despite the poor play from our safeties, at least the poor pass coverage. We'll get into the defense later, but
right.
We're able to beat teams. I think the Packers, maybe had intimidated us, but now since we beat Seattle, we know we can beat Green Bay. We know we can beat any team in the league.
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing is a maturation of Cam Newton. Now, what the thing is that the national analysts or people outside that are watching this closely are not going to see this, because even though there's some murmurs that Cam should be MVPs doing all this, when you look at the stat sheet, the numbers just aren't good when it comes to the traditional measurements of what a good, the passing percentage, the yards per game, the completion percentage, the yards per game, and the passing touchdowns. They're not overwhelming. But when you look at him, he's playing good. He's playing well, should I say, would be the correct way of saying it, is that he's making good decisions. He's not really outside that first pick. He's been making solid decisions. Has he been the most accurate at times? I think this was his least accurate game, and in some key moments, he threw behind guys a little bit and some things. But overall, all those things are trending up, right? Christina chimes in on Twitter and says, and you can follow Christina at ChrisAG1336. She says, Cam called some of the plays in this game. We get when Cam audibled and ran that touchdown, was it against Tampa or was it against the Saints where he audibled and ran? He had a rushing touchdown. You're seeing him become more of an offensive intellectual rather than just an offensive athlete, right? And while we're on that subject, Joey, let me ask you this. For Cam, was this a good game? Was it a bad game? Or was it a great game?
I think it was a good game that turned into a great game.
That's You stole my answer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Tell us why.
I think he was playing well in the second half. He was moving the ball. He was getting first downs. Like I said, he had that mediocre at best first half, but the second half he really started to play. He started to gain confidence. We had 4 drives of 80 yards in this game, or more.
Against the Seahawks, folks.
Right. This is Seahawks at home.
Yeah. Let's not. I don't care how bad their offensive line is. I don't care about a little confusion. You march down the field 4 times on those dudes. That's unheard of.
Right.
Unprecedented.
Right. I don't think that I can't tell you the last time I've heard any team doing that, marching down the field for 4 80-plus yard drives. And I think that's where Cam started to turn this around when he realized, hey, I have the tools to beat this team, and he started using them. I think he hit like 6 different receivers or something like that on the last drive, maybe 4 different receivers on the last drive. He's got the tools. It's just him. He makes it happen. He really does. And that's why I think it went from good to great. Because on that last drive, he was confident. He was precise. And he just knew what it was going to take to win this game.
Joey, I hate to turn the subject matter because I'm going to answer the question, but I just was looking at Twitter, and it turns out, and I have not been able to turn on the television. I had a lot with work, then Boy Scouts, then family, and then getting ready. We did the fantasy podcast. Now we're doing this podcast. My Cubbies down 0-2, take it home. They're down 5-2 to the Mets. And somebody on Twitter said the Cubs are pulling a Cutler. Gosh, I had to go flip over and check the score just based on that. All right. For my answer was for Cam, was this a good game, a bad game, or a great game? I'm going to say a great game. And not a great game on the field when it comes like that first half. We can't negate. You can't be like, this was a great game and he played terrible. Well, like you said, mediocre at best. But here's where it's a great game, Joey. He had 2 picks. He came back from them.
Yes.
He had a tough first half. He came back from it. He was in a hostile environment. He came back from it. He reset himself mentally. And that has been something that's been very difficult for Cam to do. it's been him that has been his own worst enemy in many cases, like the poor fundamentals, the poor footwork, the relying on his athleticism. He mentally, you see him before the game, you can see the nerves in him when he does the prayer, like blow on his fingers, closes his eyes. You're like, holy crap, he's nervous. And he's got to get the jitters out. But here's the thing is when Cam in the past if he hasn't played great, he's had trouble coming back from it.
Right.
He willed himself psychologically out of all of that. And you mentioned that term earlier. So that's what I'm going to say. This is a great game for Carolina Panther fans. It's a great game for the Carolina Panthers. And it's a great game for a guy who's growing into a great quarterback. And I want to caution everybody in drawing your conclusions too early about NFL players. This is the trend that has taken over since fantasy football has come about, since daily fantasy has come about. It is flavor of the week. Think about what they said about RG3 after year one.
Oh, Jesus.
Think about what they said about Andrew Luck. He is not playing well. Think about what they said with Cam Newton. And I'm going to give you another example right now. Colin Kaepernick. But let's go to another place, Philadelphia Eagles with Jordan Matthews. There's an idea that because he has not played as a one receiver yet, and he's only a year and 6 games into his career, that he can't be a number one. I don't believe this yet. I think we draw judgments too early.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you look at Terry Bradshaw and what it took for him to become a good quarterback, you see this is it takes time, even if you're the best talent, to, you know what, you might be the best on day one, but you're not your best yet. And right. Cam Newton is not his best yet. No. So that's why I'm going to say this was a great game because it's a step towards the mountaintop, man.
I think you used a great word, Tony, when you said maturation. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing the maturation of Cam Newton. He was his own worst critic. You know, he was right. hardest on himself.
He gets down on himself.
Right. It was really evident, you know, the first couple of years. But he's gained some mental toughness being around the veteran guys. You know, I'm sure they've helped him to overcome that problem. And what we're witnessing is the birth of what could be one of the all-time great quarterbacks in this NFL in history.
Right. Just Joan chimed in on Twitter. Olsen said Cam was very, very calm in that fourth quarter. He's showing how much he's grown up in the past 4 years.
Yes, and like you said, when he's on his knees praying and nervous and jittery, they say that when you first get into the NFL, everything is so fast. It's flying around. Everything is going 100 miles an hour. But then you start to settle in, and the game slows down. And that's what's going on for Cam right now. The game is slowing down, and he's really turning into, you know, one of the league's top quarterbacks. Now, stats-wise, he's not blowing you away yet, but wins is where he's really growing, and the stats and that sort of stuff will come.
That's funny is that Christina said just this 2 minutes before you, stats mean nothing at all. It's all about the final score. He's learned how to win. The Panthers have learned how to win. Let's change the topic real quick to the defense. The defense did their part in this game. They limited the Seattle rushing attack if you don't count Russell Wilson, right? They held the Seahawks to 14 first downs. They helped Carolina win the time of possession battle. It took a trick play that was actually rather well defended for Russell Wilson to get a passing touchdown. Sure. There was a couple of areas that the Panthers didn't just win outright. Jimmy Graham ate him up. He had 8 receptions, 140 yards, and Russell Wilson's 53 yards on the ground exposed that the Panthers had trouble holding contain on the edges a lot of time. So where do you think, Joey, after seeing the Panthers defense kind of ebb and flow throughout the season, they let the Saints move the ball a lot on them. The Jacksonville Jaguars scored against them. The Houston Texans, they didn't shut them down entirely. What do you think about this performance for this defense, and where are they at this moment?
Well, let me address something here. That pass for the touchdown that Russell Wilson threw on the trick play, it was just a size mismatch. If Kirk Coleman would have been taller, that wouldn't have been a touchdown. He was just undersized going against that big receiver.
And if he would have just maybe had a little bit more leverage just with his arm,
he could have knocked it away.
He was there. He was there.
Yeah, sure, he was there.
It was a good catch.
It was a great catch, but
he fought for it. He fought for it, which
he did. You can't take that away from him. But this defense really stepped up, and I hate to say it, but sometimes it seems as if they're playing to the level of the competition.
Right.
We did lose Kuechly after game 1, so whether and let's give a big cheer for Klein, who stepped in and played well in Kuechly's absence, but he's not Luke Kuechly. And we got our team captain back, one of the team leaders. People were motivated for that, and I just think the defensive line played lights out. KK is turning into one of the premier defensive tackles in the NFL.
Who's been all over that guy? This guy right here has been KK short, dude.
That's right. On the KK bus.
That's right.
Since day one.
And it might be short, and I'm used to riding the short bus.
I want to say
I'm there.
I want to say that we are definitely having to sign Josh Norman, and he's priority. But KK's got to be right behind him.
Right. I agree. Just Joan, and you can follow Joan at Joan PZLS. Joan, please. Just Joan. She tweets in and says, by the way, I think she's coming to Greenville on Thursday. How awesome was Luke Sunday? He spent 4 weeks doing nothing but getting ready for beast mode. You know what he was getting ready for is getting ready to go beast mode. You saw the best linebacker in the NFL come back and not miss a step.
Definitely.
Not a beat. He didn't miss a beat. He didn't rust.
Right in and was right up to speed.
I think he's an undervalued talent in the league because middle linebacker is not a premier high focus position.
It's our glory position.
Right. I do think this is that let's talk about how good this defense is, Joey. And what I mean by is this defense the shut you down to 12 points defense, the 17? I'm not really sure if they're there. But where I am pleased with is that if the Carolina Panthers did not get a suffocating pass rush on you in the past, when they did have those types of defenses, you could put up 30 on them.
Right.
Is that what I feel like is that the Panthers are a little bit more balanced as a defense. And to mention all this, certainly we did this against one of the worst offensive lines in the league, but we're doing this with KK Short, the defensive tackle, who's a second-round guy that nobody knew, that wasn't even starting last season.
Right.
That the coaches really made earn it to the ends, probably a little too long, in my opinion. But we got Ryan Dallaire, who is a practice squad guy. We got Coney Ely, who has been in and out of the Panthers coaching doghouse throughout his short tenure. These guys are doing this with tools that are not elite, outside of your boy Josh Norman. And as Joan says, whoop, Josh Norman. Good Lord. Joey, they didn't throw to him not one time, I don't think. Quiet day for Norman, and I think that's a good thing when it comes to corners.
Josh Norman, I said before that you're gonna start to see teams play one half of the field, and it's the half of the field that Josh Norman is not on.
You saw them attack Charles Tillman early.
Mm-hmm.
They're concerned about this. Now, let's go to this and talk about this because you already brought up KK, who had 2 sacks, pressures, endless pressures. He just he just mugged these dudes in this one play where he just pushes the dang guard down, like straight pushes him down. And then somebody comes and tries to throw a second block on him, and he basically like punched the dude in the face. He was a monster out there, just mean and nasty and everything you want out of a defensive tackle. So that shows up. But Charles Tillman, we get an injury to Teddy Williams, who is got
he was hurt on that. Yeah. You could tell he got dinged.
Got the Luke Kuechly flopping like a fish syndrome.
He tried to stand up and then went right back down.
Yeah, it's not working. But here's the thing: we were at the bar and Jarrell said this. He said, "What happens if Tillman or we get another injury at corner? We're in some big trouble. Teddy Williams hurt. Charles Tillman showing signs that people really want to test him. He's been picked on throughout the season. Mm-hmm. He's played pretty well, not great, not poorly, but he hasn't played. He's showing signs. He's a good veteran.
Yeah, he's a 13-year player, man.
Yeah.
If you think about that, that's a long time.
What do you do if something else? If Tillman gets hurt? If we get an injury at one of the cornerback positions, are we in trouble? Because Teddy Williams is hurt. And
right.
He's kind of fragile. He's that thin, fast runner guy. So
right.
He tends to get blown up a little bit.
Yeah, he's built for speed. We're definitely going to be in I don't want to say dire straits, but we're going to be in an interesting position because Bené Benwikere can come in and play, but that's going to leave a big hole in the nickel spot, and that's where I guess we would see more of Shaq Thompson, perhaps, who banged his knee up on, I think, the last kickoff of the game. After we scored our touchdown, he strained his knee, and I think his status is uncertain for this Sunday. But yeah, that would be what I would expect. I think we'd see a little bit more Shaq Thompson in our nickel coverage.
No, not now, because you forget Shaq Thompson's out with a sprained knee.
Right. Well, is he out, or are they just uncertain of his status?
Oh my gosh. Joan just tweets in from David Newton. David Newton, first of all, who's most known for hashtag Fire David Newton, ESPN staff writer for the Carolina Panthers, tweets, and I'm totally screenshotting this right this second. You got screen grab, buddy. And let me see if I can put it up. Joey, carry the conversation for a moment about this defense and what you saw. I get to this.
This defense really, what I liked about it was the fact that we were getting to Russell Wilson. Even when we weren't hitting him, we were making him uncomfortable. We were making him jittery. He didn't want to hold on to the ball too long. He wasn't sure whether he should run or just try to, move around in the pocket. He was never really comfortable back there. I think we played a really great game. Jimmy Graham did kill us, but it's
talk about that. Talk about Roman Harper, the safety play.
It was his coming out party of sorts, and I don't know, for whatever reason they kept Roman Harper on him, and he was just getting beat left and right. Harper was there to make a tackle most of the time, but this was after a 15 or 20-yard pass play. Harper just doesn't have the speed to run with Jimmy Graham, and that's, Jimmy Graham is 6'5", 260 pounds, and Harper can't keep up with him. So, we value Harper for his leadership and for his run-playing ability. But, man, he is an incredible liability in the pass, and we really got exposed by Jimmy Graham. Thankfully, we don't play so many tight ends that have his talent.
Let me ask you about that, because I feel like people are being a little hard on Roman Harper, because I want to say I listened to Rivera's press conference, and probably the least engaging, revealing, or entertaining press conference of the season this year. Short, sweet, boring. Like, man, my man is about some business right now, which is good.
Right.
What I saw in that is he said, like, he continued to talk about the importance of Roman Harper to his team and saving him for the back stretch in a way that they really think there's some value of what Roman Harper brings. And I don't know if it's just play, if it's just being in the situation, but they like him, right? Mm-hmm. To me, when I saw Jimmy Graham, is that I feel like half of his production was not by design. I felt like he had, and so, I don't know what I think what that shows is when you put a guy like Roman Harper on him, he can only hang with him for so long.
Right.
Like 5 yards.
Right. He can't. He doesn't have the speed. I don't want to say he's too old, but he definitely doesn't have the speed he did, when he first came into the league. And yes, you're right. To a certain degree, when Russell Wilson's pocket broke down, that it's kind of every man for himself. The receivers are taught to start running to the same side of the field as a quarterback, as he trying to give him an option, somewhere to throw to. And I did read that a lot of what happened with Roman Harper and Jimmy Graham was that sometimes some of the other guys were out of position. And so, that it wasn't necessarily Harper's fault. I did read that somewhere. So I do understand what you're saying. But at the same time, it's evident, that he's a liability in coverage to a degree. If it's man on man and he's got to cover somebody speedy, he's going to lose.
I'm going to go ahead. We're going to jump in to finish that thought. But here we go. T-Money chimes in. A great tweet, T-Money says, hashtag fire David Newton, hashtag hire T-Money. Love it.
Where's the screen grab? I want to see.
Okay, all right. We're gonna do it with finish that thought, and we are gonna start it off. I think with this as being our finish that thought.
People,
all right.
Human beings are so weird. Who talks in front of a camera by themselves for fun? We thought that was good ideas. Some of these things that you use every day. Who's the guy or girl that was like, this makes no sense. Good idea. That's a good
idea. I tell you what wasn't a good idea, and that's what David Newton tweeted out 2 days ago, and still happens to be straight on the ESPN website, just blasted like crazy. There may not be a bigger douchebag than David Newton at this point right here. Looks like this, Joe. Two fans, says these fans came to Seattle from Idaho. Didn't know they made a Luke Kuechly jersey in defensive tackle size. Good timing for this couple on getting to see Kuechly. He's playing for the first time since suffering a concussion in the opener. I say this, Joey, I'm going to finish the thought is what I'm going to do mine first, and that is what's David Newton's tweet about this gentleman's trip with this young couple, this happy couple, great supporters of the Panther Nation. This tweet demonstrates that David Newton is in the concussion protocol himself. You may be the biggest jerk asshole. These people went all the way to Seattle, and sure, it was only half the trip since it was Idaho. But damn, that's a long ass trip. And those mugs are there representing, and you're going to pick on my man's weight. He does kind of look a little like Star, though, just because he's got the complexion of like a Honolulu, and if that a Hawaiian. But David Newton looks markedly resemblant of an ass. Joey, David Newton's tweet talking about this gentleman's weight, size, girth in relation to his jersey selection is...
It was tacky. There was no need in saying anything like that because, like you said, they made the trip to Seattle to support their team. I'm sure they went on their own dime, too. So,
well, they certainly didn't go on ESPN's dime.
That's exactly my point. It's exactly my point. So that was totally unnecessary and very poorly timed. And a poor choice of words. I mean, he could have said so many other positive things. I don't appreciate
that. How
that.
great is this that these Panther fans made the trip to a place where the Panthers haven't ever won? If you're going to bet on a game to go to, this probably isn't the one to go to, and these guys bet a long shot. Exactly. Something like that. Or how about this? If you're going to bet on a NASCAR guy getting a job as a football writer like David Newton, it's people like this that would have placed that long shot bet. So screw you, David Newton. Sorry. That was just came up. That was organic. Joan tweeted that in. I felt like it needed to be discussed. All right, next, finish that thought, Joey. Carolina's winning their first game without a takeaway since November of 2012 against the Redskins is. It's their first game they've won in 3 years without a takeaway.
Is a good sign of things to come.
Okay. I'm going to say it's a sign that the offense, Cam has assumed leadership of the offense. And that we can win. And this is something that I've said throughout this season, Joey, is there's been times that the defense have won games for us, and there's been times they haven't, right? And that they haven't lost games for us, but it was required that the offense go out there and win them, right? Mm-hmm. This time, both of them came clicking. I think the idea is this: it didn't take a pick six to win this game. Good sign for the Carolina Panthers offense. Yeah. All right, last finish that thought. Carolina's failure to score an offensive touchdown in the first quarter this season says?
Well, it says what we've traditionally been is a slow starter. Right. Whether it's in games or, whatever the case is, we always start slow. And usually that's the case in games. But this game is a perfect example of once we get beyond that first quarter, we start to warm up, turn things around, and that's Cam. Cam starts to get into the game mode, and he shows you what he can do.
Yeah, I think Carolina's failure to score an offensive touchdown tells us two things. First, there's no playmakers on this team on the offensive side outside of Cam. Second, Cam tends to start off slow. He's got to work the jitters out, and it's something that he seems to be getting better at, but it's still there. Joey, yes. If you wanted to buy this David Newton a T-shirt that said hashtag fire David Newton, where would you start to look for it and purchase it at?
Well, I would start to look for it at this CarolinaCatChronicles.com because I'd want to go and check out all the hottest takes and news from the fans' perspective. While I was there, I would hit the shop tab and click on Amazon. Go to Amazon, find that T-shirt, purchase it, and then get back on the C3 website from Amazon. Now, doing this does two things. It gets you to Amazon while not having to leave our site, and it gets us a little piece of the action. Amazon is nice enough to give us a small percentage. Referral fee, thank you, for you coming to their site through ours. And we turn around and spend that money on you fans, whether it be buying these prizes for the fantasy football or
paying for the website,
or or CamWows or any of that stuff. Yeah, or paying for the website. That's what we do with the money.
Joey, I didn't expect us to go this long about the game, but we got a good email today from Soren Peterson. And
Yes, we did.
Soren Peterson sent us an email titled Panther Fan in Denmark, that subject line, I believe it was.
Mhm.
And this is the email he wrote to us this morning. I received it. I'm a huge Panther fan and C3 fan from Denmark in Northern Europe. I have a question I'd like for you to discuss, and I wish, Soren, that we would have gotten to this earlier in the show. But at this point, he says, do you think Dave Gettleman is disappointed with the impact of his 2015 draft picks, as none of them seem to be huge upgrades from day one like previous drafts? Starr, K'Wan Short, Kelvin Benjamin, Trey Turner, Ben Wickery, among others. Joey, he goes on to say, thank you for a great podcast. Keep up the good work. Soren Peterson, I hope I pronounced it right. I think it's awesome. Anybody that's got a 0 with the strike through in your name, very cool. Before we get into his question, I want to say a couple of things. First, thanks for listening to the podcast. Thanks even more for sending us such a great question. And don't worry, we're going to give you our take on it. But before we do, I got to say something about Denmark. I've been there. I stayed in Copenhagen for 2 days before heading south across the Baltic Sea to Germany. And now, just granted, on this trip, Joey, I hit Amsterdam. We hit Hamburg, Germany. We were in Oslo, Norway before Denmark. And we were also even hit Paris in this trip. And I'm going to tell you, Copenhagen was by far the most awesome happening place. And we had a freaking blast, dude. And I'm going to tell you 3 things for people that are wondering why this is so awesome. First, go Wikipedia. Just go to Wikipedia and type in Christiania. It is the most awesome, amazing place. They've had some problems since I was there, but this, Joey, is a place that hippies bought after World War II. They purchased it from the government. They purchased a dump, like a literal dump that had been bombed. And they bought it, and they made their own province in the middle of the city, the capital city. In the middle of the city, they're their own country, where the laws and the rules don't apply to them. They dictate them. These hippies are awesome. This would be like the town commons, Joey, if you could go to the town commons and it was your own little country, right? And you know Greenville. You understand that. Yeah. Second, just trust me. Read the Wikipedia page. It's amazing. Second, when you go there, just get on bus number 8. It's been over 14 years or 13 years, I think, since I went there. And I still remember bus number 8 is what takes you straight to Christiania. Number 3, Joey, when I'm in Denmark, Copenhagen, we had a lot of fun. And you know I like to have fun. And you know what I mean? Yes. By the end, we had walked all the way across the city. We took a bus to Christiania. We walked it back. We were at our hotel partying, having a blast. The news was on, Joey, and the news cuts off and hardcore porn comes on on like a regular channel. I got to say, Denmark is the best place ever. Very high taxes. Okay, so to the question, Joey. It's a good question. Think about this. This was the draft this year, and think about this production. Shaq Thompson, Devin Funchess, Darrell Williams. By the way, Devin Funchess, 5 catches. Darrell Williams hasn't played. Cameron Artis-Payne hasn't really played in the regular season. And David Mayo, forgot about that guy entirely.
Special teams. He's made some contributions on special teams.
Joey, what do you think about this question? Do you think Dave Gettleman is disappointed with the production of this draft class?
No, I don't know if he's disappointed or not. I imagine when drafting these guys, he knew he wasn't drafting guys that were going to come in and make an immediate impact. He knew that they were going to take a little longer to develop. And, well, for one, when he got here, we were in need of some serious help at certain positions. I mean, desperate help.
Right.
So when he drafted these guys, they were going to play no matter what because they were better than what we had on the roster at the time.
Which was like you and me.
Right, exactly. Me and you playing defensive tackle. Okay.
Right.
So there's that. So now we've got better players at these positions, and we're drafting guys that aren't as good or aren't ready as the guys we have playing now. So you have to take that into consideration. And I just, again, it goes back to I don't think these players were at the level of the ones he drafted before. Not talent-wise, but just ready to play.
Right.
So, no, you can't hit home runs every at-bat. You're going to hit a single. You're going to get a walk every now and then.
Well, I can tell you one team that would tell you that, and that's the Chicago Cubs, who are in the middle of the ninth, down 5-2 still, who rely on the long ball, Joey. They can't hit home runs at every bat either. I think that's a fair assessment. I think there's a couple of things you pointed out, and to Soren. Number one, I think that this draft right here is drafts 1 and 2 were kind of desperation drafts, is that you did need those to step in and be players there. And there was no choice about it. I mean, there really wasn't, is that they were going to be the best player at that position at that time, regardless of how good they were, but more on how terrible the other people were.
Exactly.
Now, he did have 2 phenomenal drafts right in a row.
Yeah.
He did hit 2 home runs, Joey, on his first 2 at-bats.
Yes, he did.
Where I think, though, that he is disappointed, or at least I'm disappointed, is like, let's set the Shaq Thompson pick aside, because I believe in Shaq. I think he showed us enough signs of what he can be and what he is going to be. So I'm okay with that. I think the Devin Funchess pick is a little disheartening in the fact that we traded for him.
Right. How we acquired him.
I mean, 5 catches, your second-round pick, you traded for him. That's kind of disheartening. Darrell Williams, though, we're going to give Gettleman a thumbs up for that, because all signs showed that he was the dude prior to getting hurt in the knee. And he's the guy, and he's going to be the right pick. I think Cameron Artis-Payne is a victim, though, of what Ron Rivera and that loyalty and allegiance to the guys that they know well and they trust well. And you know what? Maybe just Cameron Artis-Payne it's not his time yet. But I think we've seen a lot out of him in the preseason and the moments that he has had the ball in his hand, where we think that that's better than Kenyon Barner, right, as a pick. Right. David Mayo, I forgot about him. I did.
Well, I've seen him make some plays on special teams. And, he was drafted. He's not going to come in and play ahead of Luke Kuechly. Shit, he's not going to come in and play ahead of Klein. But he's one of those guys that you get to be on special teams, and he's young. So you teach him how to be a professional. Yeah, it's a development project. And
depth maybe in 2 years down.
And then 2 or 3 years, maybe he sees a little more time on the field.
Yeah, maybe. I think we missed a little bit with the Funchess pick and trading up, is that maybe we could have gotten a contributor, given Dave Gettleman and Ricky Prohl our respect for them and talent, that they could have gotten somebody in the 3rd round that would have been at least a contributor, whether it be adding depth at the corner or the safety or something like this. I don't know. I guess that's the one pick right there that's going to continue to stick out for us until he changes our mind.
Well, I know Ron Rivera has said that the biggest loser from the Kelvin Benjamin injury is Funchess.
Yeah, and he didn't have a preseason either. But here's the thing. The drops are an issue. They were an issue in college, and they're still an issue.
Well, same thing was said about Kelvin Benjamin last year. You know what I mean? He did have a drop.
But he also had like 12 touchdowns or whatever, like 11. He didn't have 5 catches.
Right. Exactly. But again, I go back to, Devin Funchess not having that that guy that just went through the same thing he's going through now, I think does hinder him some.
T Money says last draft spoiled us because like we got guys
last two drafts
like Ben A, who redrafted in the 4th. I think here the thing though too is maybe we're seeing the master plan a little bit. In that Dave Gettleman had the urgency in season 1 and 2, and now he might be building for longevity where we're not seeing the immediate dividends where we like them. We don't want to fall into that kind of David Newton fantasy draft-esque, what have you done for me lately? And maybe there's the long-term plan. And it shows us this is now we're at a point where there's a little wiggle room.
Right.
It's thank God we're at a point where Darrell Williams is hurt and Devin Funchess isn't. Well, the Devin Funchess thing, we need a ride down receiver.
We really could. Yeah, if he was healthy and up to speed, that would be awesome.
And Kelvin Benjamin. All right, let's move on. We got to talk about the Eagles game, Joey. The Eagles are coming to town. I believe it's a Sunday night game, correct? Prime time.
Yes, that's right.
Turns out the Eagles played a prime time. They're going to have a short week. They played on Monday night, then they're going to play on Sunday night. They played last night, the Eagles game. Bradford stunk. It just so happens that the Giants stunk more.
They did.
Bradford threw like 240 something yards or somewhere in there, mid 200s. He had 3 picks and a fumble, and somehow they won 27-7, Joey. The Giants, well, they are just a team that stinks. They're good, then they're bad. Then they'll win a few that prevents them from getting a draft pick. And then they're bad again. They stink, Joey. Is there anything that you've seen out of the Eagles that creates that fear or that intimidation that we may have had before the season started?
Well, we know they have talent. It's just they've never been able to put it all together. Even last night, they had a defensive touchdown. Eli threw a few interceptions himself last night. One was returned for a touchdown. DeMarco Murray, it looks like he's starting to come around. I think he had 100 yards last night.
Right.
And, that their offensive line is not very good. Their defense is not very good as a whole. They have some good players. And, honestly, I'll be honest with you, I think the Panthers are looking at this game and remembering last year's game. Remember last year's game, 45-7? I think it was on a Monday night, and John Gruden started making smoothies in the booth because he was so bored with the game. The Eagles just came out and dominated us. Do you recall that?
Yes.
So I think the Panthers are looking at this game like, hey, you put it on us last year. It's our turn to come back and show you a thing or two. So I'm hoping that's the approach they're taking.
A lot of viewers tweeting into the show. They like a lot of the things that we're talking about with KB. KB's drops quick. Missy says, I got over KB's drops quickly, especially after that catch against Sherman. I tweeted her back that it was central, and she just tweeted that was she needed a beer and a cigarette after that catch. I agree totally with you. I'm drinking beer right now, and I could go for a cigarette because I like a secret cigarette every now and then. Difference T Money says KB could get by and dominate on just being physically beast. But Funch tall, not built the same. But here's the thing: is Funch has been hurt. He's not out of rhythm. There ain't really any excuses at this point. We haven't seen much out of him yet. That doesn't mean he's going to be bad, but we ain't seen anything that suggests that he was worth trading up for.
Not yet. Yeah.
I'm not going to be a negative Nancy, whatever the term is. At Sports Guys Show says as long as the Panthers penalties or turnovers, Carolina will beat the Eagles 28-21. So going on what you said, to this means a lot for us. Murray seems to be finding a little bit, and you know what? Barely.
Right.
I know that everybody is like, hey, he's getting back on track and this and that, but it's barely.
And it's inconsistent. He has not been consistent at all this year.
That game yesterday against the team that was worth a shit. he wouldn't have done anything.
Right.
It would have been a complete blowout the other way. Three turnovers. Look, I mean, the Giants, that was more about the Giants being terrible than it was about the Philadelphia Eagles being good. The Giants marched down on the first score. And first drive, scored immediately, like in the first 30 seconds of the game almost,
right.
or first minute. And then, like, they just, like, quit. It was terrible. So my question to you, Joey, is Bradford stinks, right? Murray might be getting on track. Is the Carolina Panthers game just focus on Murray in that running attack and let the rest just work it out?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think you focus on the running attack and shut it down and make them become one-dimensional and have to win the game with Bradford. And then you pin your ears back and you pressure that son of a gun and you drill him and you hit him and you pound him as many times as you can, and he will start getting rid of that ball well before he should, just because he doesn't want to get hit.
Bradford, like, you know what, and you can go back and watch the tape, folks. I'd love for you to watch the tape of the C3 podcast going way back. That would be crazy, and I would give you a thumbs up, but I wouldn't do it. But my take is this, I've always told you Bradford is just damn fool's gold. He ain't ever done anything that has shown us. He's just part of the narrative that's like Andrew Luck. And Andrew Luck has done things. So what I'm just trying to say is he's never done anything. He's just hype. Now, and what we're seeing is that at a moment he's healthy. He's supposed to be the guy for the offense. All the things are tuned for him. It's not working. He looked bad. Like, he was throwing guys short. He was throwing guys long. He was making bad reads. He's not good. So I think we shut down that running game, Joey. I think that's what let's flip it, though. What do they need to do to us if they want to? If you're the Eagles, come into our house, you're playing a team that's 5-0, that seems to really be clicking on all cylinders. You have been inconsistent. What do they need to do to us? What is Chip Kelly trying to attack?
Well, I think if I remember correctly, last year the biggest thing they did was get to Cam Newton. I think Connor Barwin had like 4 sacks in that game. He was just all over Cam Newton, who had no time to throw the ball. They stuffed our running game, and they just attacked our defense. They made our secondary look as bad as they really were. So I think they're going to look to try to do the same thing. They have a pretty good tight end. I think his name is Ertz.
Yeah, something like that. That sounds right. He got a lot of he played. I just read the stat on the Fantasy Football Podcast. He was in there 84% of the snaps. He got like 15 targets or something. He had 7 catches for 43 yards, I believe. So think about that. 15 targets. My man catches 7 balls. And I'm guessing it's because Bradford sucks.
Yeah, that's what I would say as well. But Ertz is talent, and we saw what happened to it when we faced a talented tight end last week. But I think we have a real good chance to get to Bradford and shake him up. But that's what I expect. I expect them to really try to get the pressure on Cam, and on offense, they're really going to try to open us up with getting to the middle of the field and then look to go deep with some of the speed they have outside.
Kristen, I love any person that has I thought it was a dollar sign and just misread it. It's just up and down. Kristen at @KSwift_RN tweets in, receivers of whom, right? Clever. I like that. It may be time to quit saying Cam doesn't have weapons around him and that he's known what has been around him all along. And that is nothing, right?
Pretty much.
I think this is that, going back to the Eagles statement, is that their defense is trash, bro. And they look like they were pretty good against the Giants. But I tell you, 2 things you saw out of that is the Giants defense is trash too. And that their offense outside of Odell Beckham Jr.
Nothing.
I don't know. It's just up and down. It's so unpredictable.
I know that Eagles cornerback that they got from
Maxwell, right?
Yeah, he's a bum.
Legion of bum.
I know.
I think this is my keys. If I'm Chip Kelly here, is there's 2 things I'm trying to do. Sproles Sproles, right? We know that Sproles, we know all about him, and you know what? We hate him.
I think he killed us last year.
Yes, he kills everybody. He's been the only consistent player on that team.
Yeah.
Watch out, Sproles is legit, and he always has been. K-State grad. That little guy is a beast. So you know what? Is we got to keep Sproles in check. To me, that's a key of the game. Punt returns, kickoff returns. Sproles is deadly in these plays that will just put a dagger in. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He does these plays that really just end it.
Change momentum.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff.
And it's not like he's going to get 15, 20 carries. It's just he's just going to have a play a screen pass, and you're going to be like, damn, we just got F'd.
Right, he's just going to outrun everybody.
I think one thing that we know that the Eagles try to do is try to gas defenses.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
We're going to have to get at it. We're going to have to get after Sam Bradford to prevent that. That's the only thing that stops you from running the hurry up is to get you in long situations.
Yes.
And maybe it's not running the actual hurry up, but then you got to run plays that take a lot of time, right? So it just kind of throws it off. You can't do the short swing passes, the short this, the short that. That just keeps going. The Giants looked gassed at times last night, but they also stink.
That they do.
So, Joey, it's time we're plowing through. I know you got to go soon.
Yeah.
Backdoor Fiction. We've got 2 segments to do, Joey, and we cannot forget Backdoor Friction, right? Cigarette, beer, here it comes. Cam Newton, Factor Fiction. Cam Newton, well, I got to set it up. Cam Newton needs 5 more games where he has both a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown to pass Steve Young for the all-time record of guys that have a rushing touchdown and passing touchdown in a season or in their career, excuse me. Factor Fiction. Cam gets this before the playoffs. So he has to have 1 rushing, 1 passing in the same game.
I think he gets it. I think that's a fact. We're relying on him so much this year to do so many different things for us. I think he gets it before the playoffs.
I agree. It's an easy fact. It's a clear fact to me. And there's really not. I mean, I think he might have it in before, say, week 11.
Could be. Very well could be.
You know, I mean, I think that he's going to just annihilate that. All right, next Factor Fiction, Joey. When Cam does break this record, Steve Young will acknowledge him as a viable quarterback. Factor Fiction.
I think that's fiction. I think Steve Young is just biased against Cam Newton. I couldn't tell you why, but I just think he doesn't hold him in high regard.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go fiction too. He's dug in. Steve Young, you're a jerk. Just for that, I don't even know you outside of that, but just the way you talk about Cam just should make you feel dirty. All right. Joey, tell them where they can find Panther fans in Charleston on Sundays.
On Sundays, you can find Panther fans in the North Charleston area at Southside 17 and Tanger Outlets. That's where I was this past Sunday. We had a great time. They have great food specials, drink specials. And they really look out for Panther fans. They have priority number 1 as far as TVs and sound, game sound. And then over Mount Pleasant, we are at RB Seafood in the upstairs. They have a great Sunday football menu. They have some really killer drink specials, and half-price appetizers. It's got the best view in all of Shem Creek and all of Charleston, really. So during the commercials, you can really enjoy the view, see dolphins, boats, all kinds of stuff. So that's where we go on Sundays.
Joey, I gotta say this and I should have said this about. I'm gonna give you a little taste of what I think about Steve Young after all this.
Nick Saban is a better man than you are. Nick
Saban's a better man than you are. That's bad. That
is bad.
It's real bad. Joey, it's time for a little. You know what? It's just me and you. It's OG style. So we're going to bring it back to the OG segment, which we do every week, and we stick with it.
That's right.
This is the Ice Up segment of the week. This is where C3 issues everybody's fair game, where we tell someone in this world to ice up, to get it together, to pull their act together. And this is we embrace the shit talking, the wonderfulness of Steve Smith for this moment. Nobody is immune to this. No one, even 8-year-old kids from Oklahoma. Joey, do you have an ice up pick for us this week?
I do. My ice up pick this week goes to Mr. Jamie Dukes. Yep, that's him and his ugly mug.
Yep, big fat ugly mug.
Jamie played for the Atlanta Falcons from 1986 to 1993. Then went on to play 1 year at Green Bay and 1 year at Arizona. He's done some game calling for the UFL, and he appears on the NFL Network occasionally. He co-hosts the Rick and Jamie Show on an Atlanta radio station. My problem with Mr. Duke is his lack of respect for our GM, Dave Gettleman. He doesn't think Gettleman has done a good job as our GM. He thinks Gettleman has done just a mediocre job drafting since becoming our general manager. It makes me crazy to think this guy can't see nor appreciate the wonderful job that Gettleman has done. He has brought us from a 4-12 team or a 2-14 team to 5-0 in just a short couple of years. He's drafted impact player after impact player. Like we talked about earlier, he hit 2 home runs in his first 2 drafts. And Jamie Duke, for whatever reason, whether it's bias, he just hates the Panthers or whatever, does not appreciate the job that Gettleman has done. And I just don't see it. If he really is an unbiased, true football analyst, he should be able to understand how difficult the job is to be a GM and how amazing of a job Dave Gettleman has done. So Jamie Dukes, or Duke, I say to you, sir, ice up, son.
Jamie Dukes is like if Scott Karasik was actually a football player.
Yes, exactly right.
You know, the Atlanta part, all of it is just
he is so pro Atlanta, and I think it skews perception about the rest of the NFC South because. And
then he tries to say he's objective and
right.
Whatever. All right. Exactly. So Joey, my ice up. As usual, indecisive, right? And wavered at first, hey, I just thinking, man, maybe I should just ice up David Newton, but we did that for like 12 minutes.
That would be too easy.
Right. Then the easiest one is to Chuck Pagano, the low-hanging fruit. That is that play.
That made to nod.
You know what is that really? It just comes down to this.
It made no sense. This makes no sense.
It made no sense. No sense. And I'm sorry, whatever. But you know what? I'm not going to ice you guys up for your meltdown because anytime luck and this whole thing is melting down, keep it coming, baby. Keep it coming. Chuck Pagano. Almost was going to go Gil Brandt, by the way. Is that his name? Old school football analyst, Gil Brandt, I feel. Who says that Mike Shula is in contention for head coaching jobs.
Wow, that's senility setting in.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So that's, again, you don't want to pick on old people, right?
Sure.
That's just
straight cash, homie.
That's straight cash to do that, right? So for me, I'm going to have to come back to Eli frickin' Manning. You signed a big contract this season, right? A renewed contract, maybe your third, who knows? But your play looks dumber than your face. And your face looks like Corky from Life Goes On. Sorry, Corky. I hate to diss on you like that, and that was inappropriate. Second, this is it. Is Joey, my fantasy football team is 0-5.
Oh, jeez.
0-5. I went into last night with my real first chance, with a real chance to win.
Mm-hmm.
I'm down 8 points. I got Dwayne Harris in. Odell Beckham Jr. is supposed to be hurt. Ruben Randall is supposed to be necked up. Dwayne Harris is going to get it done, right? So they come out and they score on the first play. I'm like, oh gosh, they're not going to get any action. Then the Giants fall down like 27-7, like 8 seconds later. And everything is there. All you got to do is pass the ball. Even if you don't score, just pass the ball. Get me 6 catches.
Right.
For 44 yards. That's all I need. He had 2 catches for 18 yards. Joey, I got 4 points in our league. I was halfway there at halftime.
Jeez.
So this ain't Dwayne Harris's fault. This is Eli Manning. Trash-ass New York Giants team. I hate you now. Even though before the Panthers existed, I was a Giants fan. I regret every moment of it. And that was just by default because my family is from New York. I felt obligated to pick a New York team. I was born in Winterville, North Carolina. I got no reason to be a damn Giants fan. And I have a reason to be a hater right now. But Joey,
you have a very good reason.
This is where it gets worse, and I could ice up myself. Is that I have a philosophy in fantasy football, and it is to start your starters.
Right.
To play the guys that you drafted because you drafted them for that reason.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
I drafted Phillip Rivers, and I drafted Andy Dalton as a backup quarterback. I have been starting Phillip Rivers all season long with the thought that the one time I'm not going to start him, and I go to Andy Dalton. Right. So what do? I start Andy Dalton. He has a good game. Three touchdowns, 200 and something yards. A solid game. What does Phillip Rivers do?
530 yards.
Yeah. That's the 10 points right there I needed. On the bench. So to you, New York Giants and Eli Manning.
And Tony Dunn.
Yeah, and myself, ice up, son. Joe, that's the C3 podcast. Tell them how they can get after you.
You can find me on Twitter at Joe Romano. Make sure you check out CarolinaCatChronicles.com for all the hottest Panther takes. And it's all from the fans' perspective because, like you, we are fans too.
I don't get what T Money is saying. He says, no, it's your fault for being too loyal to ECU guys. Here comes the ice up, T Money. You're wrong. Phillip Rivers was an NC State guy. Oh, he's talking about Dwayne Harris.
Dwayne Harris, yeah.
Hey, I was picking a guy that needed to get some catches. All right. Ha. Good. Hashtag hire Team Money. This is the Professor, a.k.a. Tony Dunn. It's your favorite night of the week, Tuesday night. You can catch us at 10 o'clock. We went a little long, but it was a great show tonight, even if it was just the OGs in effect. Thanks for all the support. Thanks from all across the world. International C3 taking over. You can check us out next week at 10 o'clock where we bring it strong. We're going for the 6-0. And check out Carolina Cat Chronicles for the hottest news. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next week.
And tomorrow we have the Southbound and Down podcast for those fans of the NFC South. Make sure to tune in 10 o'clock. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Word up. Ice up, sons.